Oh, okay. I have something we can start off with. Okay. So in the module, one of the very first things, Tanya posted, I think it was 3 YouTube videos, just different types of classrooms. So I actually picked 2 that I liked out of the 4, and I really liked the one that was titled Inside the Montessori Classroom. That one just seemed really like clean and aesthetically pleasing, and it wasn't too overwhelming with choices for the children, so it was kind of straightforward. And I like how the furniture is like child size and everything too, so that they can access everything and interact with the environment independently without actually needing the help from adults. And I really liked how they had both indoor and outdoor areas seemed pretty interactive for the children. Like they had many things, many objects and furniture and everything that just went perfectly, I think, with the design of an environment to encourage that critical thinking for children. The other one that I chose too was the YW Childcare Center. So I kind of liked the sectioned off areas for playing and eating, sleeping, and reading. When they were going through the video, you could obviously tell which areas were for which. It was pretty open concept too at the same time though. I noticed that it had like really great lighting, a lot of natural lighting and everything, which is great for the children. It seemed very organized and they had lots of areas for sensory and dramatic play, which is great. The outside play, I wasn't really sure on. Sometimes in the outside, it's not grass, but it's almost like that foam. There didn't seem to be any like natural materials, no plants, no anything. But I mean, at least the outdoor part, I guess, did have bikes and buckets. So it did have like equipment that could still initiate play for the children. It's just there wasn't that much natural material. But I think I chose that one more just because of the inside of the classroom. I found interesting. What did you guys think about those ones?
One of the videos that we were watching for this module, I noticed that it seemed to be in a building that was higher up on a higher floor. And I really liked the inside of it because it just seemed very open space, lots of color, lots of natural light coming in, like the windows were close to the floor, so children were able to go and look out as they please, like be individuals and not have to rely solely on their educators for like assistance and complete support, which was nice. I really liked how open space it was. They had doors, which I found was really interesting. The doors were only half doors, if you know what I mean. Like, so the educators could still see through every single room, which I thought was very creative because the educators are more likely to have eyes on all the children at all times. What I didn't like about it was the outdoor space. It seemed like it was out on a balcony. There was like no greenery, no natural outdoor materials. At the end, like children really can't see anything than other buildings around them. Like they don't have that free ability to go and explore anything. So I feel like that would really be difficult for their development.
Yeah, and also like I feel like it would be a pretty busy part of the city too, since like you said, there are huge buildings like all around, so there's nothing really to look at other than the other skyrise buildings and everything. I wonder if that would like distract the children and them not really being able to express their full play capability distract them, because I feel like if that was me in their shoes, that would probably distract me for sure. I feel like that would definitely hinder their play. So yeah, I like how you brought that up.
I saw that they were willing to take children out, like go for walks on the sidewalks and stuff like that, but the children were in their strollers, so it wasn't like they could even really roam around. It's just that outdoor factor of seeing natural materials and, you know, their outdoor surroundings. was just agreeing, like, I can understand where you're coming from for that. That's the one, it was the Discovery School of Jacksonville, right? I really liked how on the outside it looked like you were walking into a house. I think that would be very comforting for children. The only thing I didn't like was just how neutral it really seemed in there. Looking from the kids' company childcare where there was so much color and then going directly to the Montessori school was like a big change. But I also like the fact that there was more greenery, which also means better air quality for the children. If I was looking at the two and trying to decide, like as a child, I'd be more drawn to the kids in company childcare rather than the Montessori one.
Yeah, I feel like you need a good balance between the two. Too much overpowering colors, like bright ones, and too many things that pop out on the wall, too many posters, pictures, for example. It's just kind of, I think, too distracting. On the Montessori side, it might be a bit too dull. They did have lots of materials and tools and everything to help that expressive play, but maybe the environment could have been a bit brighter.
Now, I wanted to switch to something else that really interested me in this module when I was talking about, trying to catch children's attention. I came across the child's eye view document on seeing children's idea about the environment. Yeah, I found it extremely interesting because obviously I know that children are much smaller than adults and they see things from a different height. I'm a shorter person and I don't see everything that my parents see because they're both tall. So I get that. But when they were talking about how children often view and perceive the world around them through myopic vision, like my mind was blown kind of because I didn't realize children see through that type of vision and then adults don't. When they taught us how to see through myopic vision by, putting your fingers around your eyes like binoculars, adults are able to understand how children see and view the world around them by sitting down on the ground and doing that by putting their fingers over their eyes like glasses. I tried doing it, and when I was doing it, my eyesight turned to be extremely focused on what was right in front of me. So I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting too. I really liked how it did tell you, why don't you just sit down at the front door and just see what you would see if you were a child? Is it inviting and safe environment? Is there anything that could capture their attention? Is there anything exciting at all? I actually did the one thing where you sit in the middle of your room, just looked around and saw if there's anything at all that children could reach for that would be child safe and friendly, or if there's anything that is captivating for a child, and is it clean and organized so it's a safe environment. I think it's a great idea for educators to do within a room for the children, is just to take that moment to just sit down in different areas of the room and just think of these questions to themselves. So I don't know if you guys have ever thought about this. Usually when I'm thinking of designing environments to be the third teacher, because it starts off saying designing environments, I think of the aesthetic and everything and how the classroom would look from a children's perspective. However, I noticed that 3 or 4 of the links that I went into actually talked about transitions for the children and how children and parents can make those transitions easier. Yes, you can make the classroom aesthetically pleasing for the child, but you also need to have those transitions between playtime and eating and nap time. You need to have those transitions as well in order to complement the environment too, because you can have an aesthetically pleasing environment for sure and have the children run wild, or you can have the aesthetically pleasing environment and have great transitions for the children based on their perspective and how they deal with things at home. There's also another link, reducing challenging behaviors during transitions. If you use the environment around you, as well as the educator and the parents, you can create a transition that is much easier for the child so that they aren't having difficulties, because lots of times these difficulties can happen from being tired or hungry or confused, or maybe they're just not ready to give up that activity yet. Both of these links really just talk about how you can connect home life and school life into a better environment for transitioning. And I really just liked that, because like I said at the beginning, I only thought about the environment being the design part, like more aesthetically pleasing and having tools and materials for the child, but I never really thought of the actual transitioning process and how difficult it really could be.
I'm really happy that you brought this up, Jessica. I agree with you. Like, the first thing I think in my head when thinking about designing environments to be a third teacher, I think something aesthetically pleasing to children, what's best for them, what sparks their interest that I can add into an environment. I wouldn't normally think of creating those transitions that would be beneficial to them. And it kind of made me go back and think, when we were talking about transitions, the transitions aren't done right. It could end up being a major stressor because they don't know how to quickly adapt to something new when they were just so focused on something previously, right? So I think being able to reduce those stressors for children just helps create more of an environment that not only shows us how to teach them, but like benefits them.
Exactly, because designing the environment isn't just the aesthetic part, but it's also how the teachers and parents and the community works within that environment. If teachers don't have the materials to work within the environment to make it easier and more simple for children, then the aesthetics isn't going to do anything, because like you said, children can get stressed out from transitioning and actually like have anxiety about that. They're not going to be like, ooh, look at those pretty colors on the wall, I'm not stressed anymore. Like, the teachers need those tools as well as the aesthetics of the environment. No, I'm glad you did, because I actually totally forgot about that too. I think you're right. I think there's about 7, but it's really great to actually have those and keep those in mind so that when you go into your room and get down to the child's level, then you can look around and be like, okay, check, 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 check. Like, just go down like the list and make sure that everything is good according to the child's perspective and how you think they would feel. Really, it's just the whole entire process of putting yourself into their shoes.
I really liked the article, Seeing Children's Ideas About the Environment. It was about educators getting together to ask questions and get like the children's input. I love that. I also found myself relating that document back to when we learned about what our image of the child was. Like personally, I know my image of the child is, seeing them as their own capable person with their own thoughts and ideas. That should be heard just as much as any of ours. Therefore, when the educators were talking about ideas and thoughts about getting children to share their ideas about the environment, it was clear that their image of the child is viewed in a way that they also value what the children have to say, asking them open-ended questions on what they like, what they dislike, what they think could be added. I could really see the educator's image of the child coming out in this specific document.
It's just very powerful that they have all these ideas and perspectives of what the classroom should look like and their own teachings and everything, because like you said, for example, about the construction part of the play area, children really do realize the aesthetic. Some people might not realize that, but they really do look at the aesthetic of the place and the energy within the play area too. They realize everything. So it's important to have that environment that is healthy and safe and lively and everything, so that they can roam around and play and not have to constantly rely on the educator, because a child-initiated area is really the best for their own growth. Actually, something that this has made me think of is, as much as this is about the children, I think it's also very important to talk about the educators as well. Having great design within the environment does teach the children for sure and acts as its own teacher. It also kind of takes a bit of weight off of the educators, because the children are in a child-initiated area and they're just exploring on their own. So it kind of does take some pressure off of the educator, but it also gives them time to themselves to be able to sit down and observe. Going back to actually the other podcast, they can really observe and document and find ways to improve the environment and ways that they can help the child feel more safe and be able to interact more.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's almost like the environment is teaching us as much as it's teaching the children, because we see how the children react to certain things, what we can see, what they're most interested in, what they almost like drift toward first, and how they react to it. I think is very important, because then it goes back to being able to individualize certain aspects for each child and figure out what each child likes specifically, so that we can better support their development and better support their wants and needs. For me personally, I just thought that, this module was very eye-opening, just to go back to the whole realization that, creating and designing an environment for children isn't just about the aesthetics. It's about, making sure that there's color and fun looking toys and stuff like that. It has a lot to do with, can a child see it? Are they able to reach it by being their own individual person without constantly needing the assistance of another educator? But it's also about realizing if the educators are able to take the time to observe, if the children like what they're doing, if they're having any struggles with it, and being able to change that, being able to adapt as much as they can with it.